Have you patterned your shotgun, like with the choke and ammo that you're going to be using this duck season? Let me know down in the comments. It's okay to say not yet. Watch this video and I'm going to give you several ways to pattern your shotgun, show you how to do it, and explain why it's so important. I'm Joel Strickland and this is part 4 of my shotgun series. It begins right now. Thanks for watching Surviving Duck Season, where we feed your waterfowl obsession and help you to maximize your hunting experience. And one of the best ways I know how to help you maximize your experience is to share with you what I've learned about patterning a shotgun. Now, if you're struggling with connecting with birds, this video is going to change your life. And if you haven't seen the other videos in this series, you've really got to watch the first 3. And then watch the rest of the ones to follow. Really important stuff. Okay, so I love all types of hunting. Turkeys, bow hunting for big game, upland birds are awesome. But I've always found it very odd that in most of the other types of hunting, the guys obsess so much with sighting in their bow or their rifle, or seeing what a shotgun pattern looks like for a turkey. But duck hunters seem like they could care less about what their shotgun does. Just load it up and pull the trigger. I don't really understand why that is. Maybe it's because with the other types of game that you're just taking one shot, so you really want to make that one shot count. With shooting ducks and geese, we can take 3 shots, and very often guys run it to the plug. The mentality is, I'm shooting a scatter gun, so I can just shoot in amongst them and something's bound to fall. And that's why they miss. Or even worse, cripple the birds. But you can shoot with precision. It takes a gun that fits, decent form, and knowing what your shot is doing when you pull the trigger. And proper practicing. Knowing what your shot is doing is what we're talking about today. Now, when waterfowl hunters are asked if they've patterned their shotgun, ammo, and choke, what they're actually going to be hunting with, only a tiny fraction of them say that they have. Throughout this video, I'll share with you reasons why we pattern our shotguns, and you'll discover that it's much deeper than seeing a pattern of pellets on a piece of paper. First, we've chosen a location to pattern our shotgun that is safe and the area behind the target is clear. A dirt mound or hill make a good backstop. I have a pallet, and then I've attached plywood to it. Then on top of that, a 1/2 inch of cardboard. Then goes the paper target. We do this to minimize shoot through and the ricochet of pellets. We also wear shooting glasses, and we use hearing protection. If you're not familiar with firearms and ammunition, please seek the help of a competent adult advisor. Always practice safety when handling and using firearms, ammunition, and components. Point of impact versus point of aim. If there's one big reason why you should shoot paper, this is it. You have to know where you're hitting. A rifle and a shotgun are not the same thing. You're not looking for pinpoint accuracy, but you would be surprised how often your point of aim, the place that you're actually pointing the gun, is different from the point of impact. This will help you figure that out. Get a 40-inch or larger square piece of paper or a big piece of cardboard and put a dot in the center of it. Stand back 20 yards and freehand a shot using a factory modified or aftermarket mid-range choke. Do this several times until you see consistency. That means probably 6 times. Then you can determine if you're hitting where you're aiming. Mine looks pretty good, maybe just a little bit to the left. That's not that big a deal. If it was like 10 or 12 inches, that would be a big deal. If that's your situation, you need to look at a couple of things. It could either be your gun fit, where you need to adjust your gun, or it could be the way you're mounting and holding the gun, your form. You might need to look at that. But just a 1/16 of an inch here or there can make a giant difference when you're shooting at 30, 40, or even further. This is a really big deal, y'all. You're gonna have to either fix the problem or figure out how to compensate when you shoot. Patterning your gun. Now, after you've figured out where your gun is shooting, you can then move to a rest, which I highly suggest. Either a monopod thing like this, or pile up some sandbags and shoot off of that. I bought this Lead Sled when I started working on this series because I knew I'd be shooting thousands of rounds, comparing ammo and choke tubes and distances. I'm able to be a lot more consistent and fair because I eliminate much of the human error which often comes from fatigue. Think about it. Your first few shots may be great, but by the time you shot like 20 times, you may not have the best form and your shoulder may be killing you. Now, none of my videos from the shotgun series are sponsored by any shotgun, ammunition, or choke tube company. It's been very important for me to be unbiased so I could bring to you fair comparisons and not be persuaded to make a product look especially good because I was sponsored by them. I'm also pleased to let you know that I've had a lot of cooperation from many ammunition and choke tube companies who've provided things like product and shared tons of knowledge and given me access to their facility, that sort of thing. It's been very helpful for me and it makes the series great for you. There are quite a few different types of targets and I'll share my thoughts on those throughout this video. The first is a do-it-yourself target. This is a really economical way to do it. Just get a roll of craft paper from Hobby Lobby or somewhere like that, preferably 40 or more inches in width, and then cut a square. Then put a dot in the center of it. The next part you can do one of two ways, and that has to do with when you put the circle on the paper, a 30-inch circle. Now some guys feel that it's important if you put the circle on the paper after you've shot it, and the reason is so you can adjust for being a little bit off when you check your pattern. Sometimes you're not exactly in the center right on the dot, so then you can compensate by drawing the circle on the densest part of your pattern. It makes sense to me. The other way to do it is put the circle on the paper before you shoot. Now if you know that you're going to be mostly on when you shoot, you can certainly do it this way. I also see the benefit of using the circle to help you if you're needing to learn how to compensate because your point of impact is a little off from where your aim is. So why a 30-inch circle? It's a standard that nearly everyone uses, plus it's a decent size comparison to a mallard in flight. So while we're talking about standards, let's talk about the 40-yard standard for patterning your shotgun. And that is your pattern inside a 30-inch circle at 40 yards. Doesn't matter if you shoot a wide choke or a tight choke. You look at the pattern efficiency to discover if the choke is performing the way it's supposed to. They say full should be 65% efficiency, meaning 65% of the pellets that were in the original shell made it inside the 30-inch circle. Then modified would be 45%, improved cylinder 35% of the pellets. And because of this standard, a lot of people think that you have to do all your patterning at 40 yards. So let me see if I get this straight. I'm supposed to shoot my skeet choke at 40 yards? What's that gonna do for me? Well, let's take a look. So now I've got pellets all the way across a 4-foot target, which is not unexpected shooting an improved cylinder at 40 yards. I do understand why there's a standard of shooting everything at 40 yards, but it just seems like it'd be a whole lot more useful to shoot the right choke at the right distance. I know there's going to be some of you technical guys that don't agree, might even argue with me. Go make your own video. No matter which way you decide to pattern your shotgun, be consistent. Especially when you're doing comparisons. You really do want to know which one is better, right? So make sure that with every comparison, you're consistent and fair in everything you do. And that means shooting your combination multiple times. I say shoot it as much as you need to until you start seeing consistency. That's definitely more than 3 shots. I want to take just a minute and show y'all the way that I've kind of got my shooting situation set up. This is kind of like my nest. This is something that I've done pretty much everywhere that I'm doing all of my shooting. We've shot maybe 4 or 5 locations for my series. And so what I have here is I've got my lead sled with my shotgun on it. I've got underneath here, I've got a couple of barbell weights that fit in here, but then I also went ahead and put a couple of sandbags on top of it so this thing is not going anywhere. This is actually a production case. It's a flight case that I put an HMI light in that is just something that was really kind of the perfect size. Additionally, like I said, I've got my muffs and my safety glasses. I've got a rangefinder here. And over here I've got a box that I keep some choke tubes and ammunition in, a few little odds and ends. Of course, my turtle box so I can be listening to some tunes. Over the top of me, I've got this tent canopy thing, and mainly just to keep the sun off me because I'm a redheaded white boy and I don't want to get sunburned. Okay, I'm going to take you through my process of patterning. Now for this situation, I'm going to be testing two different chokes, a factory modified and a Muller decoy choke with Boss 2 3/4 inch 3/5s. All right, let's take this thing inside and count some pellet holes. When you're looking at your target, you want to see an even distribution of pellets. No big holes in the pattern and no hot spots where there are way too many pellets in one area. Then if you really want to see what's going on, you want to count pellet holes. If you circle the hole with a pin while you're counting, it makes it easier, and that way you know which ones you've counted and which ones you haven't. Some guys will also fold their target into quarters, and then they can look at different quadrants. It also makes it easier to keep up with your count that way too. Once you've done that, you'll want to take the original pellet count and figure out the percentage of pellets that are inside your 30-inch circle. Now to make it a little easier, you can buy printed targets like these. I like the mallard because you can see where on the duck that your pellets are actually hitting. Reactive targets are cool too. They're a lot of fun and a great visual, but maybe not quite as useful as plain paper, only because you can't find targets big enough for seeing your full pattern. I found some 18-inch square targets that were solid black that had no printing on them. Those things were great. What we like to do is take 4 of them and stick them on one target. That way you get a bigger section that you can shoot. It wasn't quite as big as an entire pattern, but pretty close. Counting holes and doing the math can be super time consuming and tedious, especially if you're going to be shooting a lot. I found out about a patterning machine that does all the work for you. You shoot the paper and the machine analyzes your shot and tells you the center of your pattern so you know where your point of impact versus your point of aim is. In just a couple of seconds, it spits out pellet count and percentages and even tells you how many holes you have in your pattern. There's only a handful of these machines across the country, and they're owned by the shot shell and choke tube companies. When the guys at Boss learned of the video project I was working on, they gave me full access to their machine. Brandon Surecki said, "Bring all the ammo and choke tubes you want. I don't care what brand. Do your research and I won't get in your way." I'm like, cool. It was a gigantic time saver. We got tons of shooting done without having to count a single pellet hole. Now that I've got a pattern that I like with a choke tube and ammunition, I'm going to take that combination to a pond or some water where I can shoot the water. Now, why am I going to do that? Well, what it does for you is it helps you to see a couple things. The shot string mainly, it helps you to see if all of the pattern kind of hits close to where you're shooting or if it's strung way out, because that's the other part of the equation that you don't see with a flat target. So I've got a decoy sitting out here. It's an indestructible Heyday decoy. It's already been shot a few times, got some pellet holes, but it's never going to sink. So we're going to use that as our target to simulate what would happen if I were to shoot maybe a duck on the water or shoot a cripple. So that's the other part of what this does for you. It kind of really helps you see maybe what would happen if you were to shoot a bird on the water. So let's do that. We're 35 yards right here. This is about a normal range that you might shoot a duck on the water. Dude, that looks good. Shot string. Don't make the mistake of thinking that all those pellets arrive at the target at the exact same time, because they don't. You can kind of see it when you shoot the water, but not on a paper target. The shot string is a long pattern that flies from the barrel to the target. And there's been a lot of discussion, debate, research, and speculation on what the shot string is and how it affects our shots. On my next video, I reveal to you and the world for the very first time answers about the shot string and what it really looks like. Not a photo, not some blurry black and white video, but in high quality, slow motion. It's some really cool stuff, I promise you. You don't want to miss it. Check the video out right here. I'm Joel Strickland. God bless you, and I'll see you on the next video.